Good morning. This is your math sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is going to be day 2 of class solving 1 and 2 step equations. And our goal here is to learn how to solve 1 and 2 step equations. And we do that by using inverse operations, in other words, opposite operations. Now, I have to say we are going to focus mainly on two step, because most of us can do 1 step already. We learned that in our sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So, first off, review back of yesterday, where we combined like terms. And we said that a like term was a term that had the same variable and the same exponent. So I look at this and I go, oh, I can combine the -2 and the +6. Those are my like terms. I just identified them. I'm going to combine them. 6 minus 2 is 4. So I have 4x plus this constant here, the number by itself, is not a like term. I can't combine it. Here I had 1, 2, 3 terms. When I combined them, I ended up with 2 because the -2 and the +6 combined to make 4. This usually bothers a lot of students because there's a number right not missing in front of this. So I'm going to add a 1. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I can combine the x's, and a 1x and a 9x gives me a 10x. So I have those like terms. But I also can combine the -10 and the -3. All right. The rule is if the signs are the same, and this is a -10 and this is a -3, if the signs are the same, add the numbers but keep the sign. So 10 plus 3 is 13. Keeping the sign, we have a negative. All right, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. All right. And remember, to be a like term, they have to have the same variable and same exponent. Well, I look at this and I go, you know what? Those all have the same. So 3 plus 6 is 9 minus 5. So when I combine these together, 3 plus 6 is 9 minus the 5 gives me a 4x squared. I don't have anything I can combine with the 8x because even though this is an x, it doesn't have the same exponent. So I can just write it down and just copy it down, the 8x. I'm going to cross them out as I've done them. And the only thing I have left is a -12 and 4. And these are constants. They're numbers that are by themselves that are added or subtracted. And technically, this is a +4. So if the signs are different, subtract the two numbers. So 12 minus 4 is 8. So we know it's going to be an 8. And whichever number is furthest from 0. Well, 12 is farther than 0 than 4. So this is going to get a minus sign. All right. So for all solving equations that we do, and we'll get into some very complex equations by the end of the week and the beginning of next week, we have this checklist. The first thing we check for is distributive property, but that means we get rid of parentheses. By the way, not doing that today. So this is not going to be on today's. Next thing, combine like terms we were doing above. Again, something that was beyond what we're going to be doing today. Next thing is having variables on both sides. We're not going to have that today. What we are going to have is move constants to one side of the equal sign, and we need to get rid of coefficients. Now, here's the thing. If you notice, it says do the opposite, do the opposite, do the opposite. Well, first off, constants are always separated by a plus or minus. If it says plus and we need to move it, we're going to do the opposite. We'll do a minus. If it says minus, we're going to do the opposite and do a plus. And I know this will make more sense when we work an example. Same with coefficients. Coefficients are almost always multiplied, so we're going to do the opposite, which is divide most of the time. Every now and then it'll be divided and we'll have to come back and multiply. So today we're only going to focus on steps 4 and 5, the last steps, because we're going to have the simpler the problem, the fewer steps. So it'll be steps 4 and 5. So let's review our vocabulary. A variable is a letter that represents an unknown value slash hashtag number. Okay? Constant's a value that does not change, usually a number, and it's separated by a plus or minus. Please don't forget that. A coefficient is a number that is next to a variable, which remember variable is letter, and a coefficient multiplies the variable. All right. So here's what we have. First step, move constants to one side of the equal sign. All right. So I always want to move. The goal is, and you know what? I should back up real quickly. What I didn't state is the goal is to isolate the variable. I don't know why I didn't stress that, but the goal is to isolate the variable. So we want to move everything away from the variable. Well, in this case, the variable is on this side, so I need to move my constant. Well, in this case, I have two constants. I have a 63 and an 84. Those are my constants. All right. So those are my constants. I need to move one of them. Well, the 63 is on the variable side, so this is the number I need to move. Also, we should always just draw a line through the equal sign because that divides it. Because this side of the equation is equal to that. That means if we had a seesaw, 63 pounds minus 7 kids equals 84 pounds. I don't know. All I know is it's balanced. This is where things balance because it says it's equal. So we want to make sure that we keep it balanced. And the rule is what you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So since I have to move the 63, this is a plus 63, so I have to do the opposite, which is a minus 63. So this becomes negative 7k equals 84 minus 63. When I do that, I end up getting 21. All right. The next thing we need to do is get rid of the coefficient. Well, this number right here represents my coefficient, and it's negative 7 times k. So I need to do the opposite of times, which is divide. So I'm just going to draw a fraction line because fraction line simply just means divide. Okay, fraction line simply means divide. And I always divide by the number and its sign because I need a positive. And let's just talk about this real quickly. Here's why we're doing this. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. A million divided by a million is 1. And negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. I'm going to go ahead and put the 1k here right now. And 21 divided by 7 is 3. But that 21 is positive, and we have a negative. So that means this response is negative. Now, 1 times anything is itself. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 10 is 10. So I really don't even need that one. So the more simplified answer is k equals negative 3. And from now on, I'm not going to list that one. Okay? All right, next problem. Well, in this case, I look at this and I go, well, what are my constants? The very first thing I need to do is move constants. Well, this is a constant and this is a constant. Well, I need to move this minus 90. I do that by adding 90 to both sides. And the reason I chose to move 90 is because it was on the same side as my variable. So 90 minus 90, that's not a fraction line. All right, I should have probably marked it off to the side next time. And negative 90 plus 90, that becomes 0, so it's gone. But now I have negative 10 plus 90. When I add that together, that ends up being 80 because the signs are different. So we subtract the numbers. 90 minus 10 is 80, and 90 is larger, so we keep the sign. All right, so now we have a coefficient. This number 10 right here that I put a star over is my coefficient. Well, it's being multiplied by k, so to undo the multiplication, I have to come back and divide. So this is 8 equals k. And that's my answer. I want to go ahead and rewrite it. So I'm going to rewrite it as k equals 8. All right, let's keep going on. So first step, move constants. Well, let's identify constants by putting a little star above them. These are my constants. I'm going to draw a line through because we want to make sure that we show that it's a balanced equation, and what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Well, the 5 is on the same side as the variable, so I need to move that 5. Remember, it says minus 5, so I have to do the opposite operation or the inverse operation and add 5. So this becomes 6y equals 12. All right, now we need to get rid of a coefficient. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable, and it multiplies it. And since the coefficient multiplies it, this is multiplication. We're going to come back and divide, and the fraction line just means divide. So we end up with getting y equals 2. And we'll write that right here. Y equals 2. This next one, again, we're going to draw this right down, and we need to identify our constants because that's what we start with. So we're going to put a little star above our constants. And I need to come back and add 4. This goes away. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 equals 3a. So now we've done step 4. We need to get rid of our coefficient. Well, my coefficient is a 3. To get rid of that, I need to divide by 3. Because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So essentially that just crosses out and becomes a 1. Okay? So writing it off to the side, a equals 4. We like to have the write the variable first. All right. No, we have fractions. And I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. Trust me. You're like, no, why should I trust a middle-aged guy that hangs out with high school students? And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good point there. But I'm still going to ask you to trust me on this because I think I can help you out. First off, we know how to move constants, so let's begin with that first. We'll deal with the fraction in a moment. Let's do with what we can first, what we already know. Well, we know 8's a constant because it's separate, has a plus sign, and this is a constant. So we need to move our constants. Well, this is a positive 8, and I'm going to move it because my variable's on this side. And remember, we always want to isolate the variable. The goal is to isolate the variable, so we need to move the 8. So minus 8. Well, this goes away and becomes 0. I'm going to bring this part down, x over negative 4. And I know you're still freaking out about it, but stop. We'll get to it in just a moment. All right, this is a positive 5 and a minus 8, so we're going to subtract the two numbers. 8 minus 5 is 3, so we know it's a 3, but because this is the larger value, we always keep the sign of the larger value. So we have a negative 3. Okay, now we have to deal with this. A fraction just means we're dividing. So we're dividing by negative 4. Okay, well, if I want to get rid of something, we always do the opposite. So if I want to get rid of dividing by negative 4, I need to come back and multiply by negative 4. That does not much look like a 4. So guess what? This goes away and becomes 1. So we now have x. And 3 times 4 is 12. And if we draw our little triangle, a negative times a negative is a positive, so x equals positive 12. And we can go ahead and write x equals 12. All right, so let's try this one. Once again, very first thing, draw a line through the equal sign. And I know your confidence isn't there, but that problem wasn't that difficult here. So let's identify our constants because that's the first thing we do. All right, well, I know my constants. I know my goal is to move my numbers away from my variable, so I have to move them away from the x. So I'm going to put a plus 1 and a plus 1, and this cancels out. So I still have this x over 9 that I have to bring down, and I know you're still freaking out about the fraction. And if the signs are different, we subtract the number. Well, 2 minus 1 is 1. But because this 2 is the larger value, I need to take the sign of whichever number is larger, and this 2 is farther from 0 than 1 is, so this is going to be -1. So I have x over 9 equals -1. Now, earlier we said that we were dividing by 9. Well, how do I undo division? I need to multiply. Well, if I'm multiplying, and remember what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Since I multiply this side by 9, I have to multiply this side by 9. Well, these 9s drop off. So now I'm only left with an x on this side. And 1 times 9 is 9. And we have a positive, a negative, and a negative. We have a negative here and a positive there. So that leaves me with a negative. So x equals -9. Okay. Next problem, drawing a line through the equal sign. Once again, we need to move our constants. Okay. So these are my constants. My goal is to get the variable by itself. So I need to move the constants that's closest to the variable. So I need to move this 2. I'm going to move this 2 by doing the opposite operation or the inverse operation. The opposite of a +2 is a -2. So now I have 6 minus 2 is 4 equals x over 4. Once again, we're stuck with that fraction. But now we're starting to feel a little more confident. We know the fraction means divide, and the inverse operation of dividing, or the opposite operation of dividing, is multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. Well, this goes away, and 4 times 4 is 16. And we're going to rewrite it as x equals 16. Okay, last one. So once again, we have a fraction, and this one looks a little bit different. Once again, we need to identify our constants. Well, 0 is a constant and 4 is a constant. So I need to move the constant that's closest to the variable across the equal sign. So to move it across the equal sign, I have to do the opposite. Well, this is a +4, so the opposite of +4 is -4. Well, signs are different, so you subtract the number. 4 minus 0 is 4, and obviously it's going to be negative. So -4 equals x over 5. Remember, the fraction line means divide, so we have to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So 5 times, and remember, if we're multiplying on this side, we're multiplying on this side. This side is easy, and it just becomes x, or 1x, but we're just going to write x. 5 times 4 is 20. Let's check our signs using the triangle. It's a +5 and a -4, so +5 minus 4, what's left is a negative. So x equals -20. All right, this concludes this video, and I appreciate you watching. I sure hope it helped with solving two-step equations. Thanks for watching.